You know what? I'm not some cheap girl you can toy with, you scumbag! You stole everything from Shiho. You destroyed her. Now, it's your turn! I will rob you of everything! Hi guys, I'm kyokaxiavon and welcome to my second Woman in Blank video. The first one did far better than I thought it would, and I really enjoyed making it, so I decided to make another one. This time, I wanted to talk about the female characters from one of my favourite games, Persona 5. I will only be discussing the female Phantom Thieves and confidants, so female characters such as Wakaba and Shiho will be mentioned, but only in passing. I'm also not going to be talking about the female characters from Scramble, as I want this video to be focused on the female characters from Persona 5 only. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know what you thought in the comments. Also, please let me know if I get any facts wrong in this video or miss any details. Subscribe or you'll be trapped in Okumura's boss fight in Royal forever. With all of that out of the way, let's begin. The female characters of Persona 5 are well written and engaging. They help drive the story and add to the ethos of the Phantom Thieves. The only issue I have with them is the forced fanservice that Atlus cannot help but sneak into every game. It's weird and uncomfortable, and doesn't add anything to the story, and yet it keeps on happening. Overall, the female characters of Persona 5 are pretty great. Let's start the discussion with the first female Phantom Thief, Anne Takamaki.
Ooh, this is all us!
This section will feature the topics listed above. If you are not comfortable with these topics, then please skip to the timestamp above. Anne is a bubbly, kind girl who deeply cares for her best friend Shiho. When we are first introduced to her, she's quiet but polite towards Akira and Kamoshida. Then when she gets into his car, the facade drops. We later learn that Kamoshida was forcing Anne to hang out with him, as if she didn't, he would bench Shiho, who was on the volleyball team. I always found the scene where Anne confided in Akira after he overheard her phone call with Kamoshida to be so heartbreaking. She had to put up with Kamoshida's disgusting behaviour because she cared so much about her best friend. His advances made rumours spread around the school that she was sleeping with him, which made life at school even harder for her. She was already considered an outsider due to being mixed race, and this rumour just made it even worse. The saddest thing is, there were adults at the school such as the principal who could have prevented this, but they didn't do anything. They felt honoured to have an ex-Olympian work at their school. Kamoshida was untouchable. Shiho attempts to end her life. Thankfully, she is unsuccessful, but Anne is left heartbroken. She discovers that due to her denying Kamoshida's request to go to his home, he started targeting Shiho instead, which drove her over the edge. Everything Anne had to put up with from both Kamoshida and her peers was all for nothing, as the one person she wanted to protect got hurt. This ignited an anger that had been sleeping inside of her. She knew that she couldn't let Kamoshida hurt anyone else. Anne overhears Ryuji and Akira as they talk about exposing Kamoshida's crimes. She wants to help but is rejected by them. Undeterred, she follows them into the palace. When she enters, she is taken by some knights and tied by her wrists and ankles. Shadow Kamoshida blames his wrongdoings on Anne, saying that she could have prevented what happened to Shiho if she just did what he wanted her to. But Anne has had enough. She listens to her inner voice and releases all of her rage. Anne awakens to her persona, Carmen. She declares to Kamoshida that she will be the one who kicks him off of his throne. The awakenings in Persona 5 are legendary. It's so satisfying to see the characters who have suffered for so long finally get the strength to fight back. While Yusuke's awakening will always be my favourite, Anne's is so powerful. We have never seen Anne be so fueled by rage. Before, she just had to sit quietly and let it happen. But now, she can fight for herself and what she cares about most. One thing I wanted to address is Anne's Phantom Thief outfit and her persona. Carmen is a femme fatale, a woman who uses her beauty to manipulate and overpower men. This is also shown through Anne's Phantom Thief outfits as she wears a skin-tight catsuit and her weapon of choice is a whip. While I like this approach as it suggests that Anne is reclaiming her sexuality, it just felt strange to put her in a suggestive outfit and give her a suggestive persona when she has struggled with being seen as a mere sex object by Kamoshida. Regardless, I think it emulates her struggles in the game thus far really well. It shows the player that all of the pain that Anne went through because of Kamoshida has fueled her inner strength and has motivated her to finally fight back. While Anne has the most relevance in the first few hours of the game, I always found her relationship with Makoto to be interesting. She heard a rumor that Makoto knew about Kamoshida's wrongdoings but stayed silent, which made Anne despise Makoto. I always liked this initial hostility between the two, as Anne's cruelty towards Makoto is completely hypocritical. She herself has been a victim of fake rumors, and yet she uses an unconfirmed rumor about Makoto to judge her whole character. Anne later approaches Makoto and apologizes to her, as she realizes that she was just projecting her own guilt about the situation onto Makoto. While I don't think Makoto was completely innocent in this situation, it was nice to see Anne openly confront her flaws and apologize, which isn't easy to do. While it is a shame that we don't see much from Anne in the main story after this moment, I can still appreciate how well thought out and presented her character was at this point in the game. The writers of Persona 5 did a great job at tackling Anne's character and portraying her struggles in a mature and tragic way. But as soon as Kamoshida's palace is completed, this is practically forgotten. For the rest of the game, she and the other female members of the Phantom Thieves are openly sexualized for fan service. The worst fan service moment was when the female Phantom Thieves had to wear bikinis to get a letter of introduction so they could progress Shido's palace. Anne is able to get the letter, but is almost molested by the man in the process. This entire section is completely unnecessary and extremely uncomfortable to watch. These scenes are so jarring. This is Anne's trauma, and it's just being treated like a joke. Atlus is no stranger to fan service, as it heavily features in their other games, but it is so much sadder to see a character who has already suffered have to go through all of it all over again. It's a shame that Atlus is willing to throw all of Anne's development from the beginning out of the window and just use her as a tool for fan service. Anne's confidant focuses on her relationship with Shiho and her rivalry with fellow model Mika. Anne's confidence brings her insecurities to the spotlight. She doubts her skills as a model, and she even starts to blame herself for getting Shiho hurt. Though with the help of Akira, she is able to overcome her insecurities. I really like her confidant as it dives deeper into Anne's mental health and how she is affected by her trauma. While it is a shame that we never have a confidant with Shiho, it's nice to hear about her recovery through Anne. Her confidant adds a lot to her character, and she is one of my favourite characters in the whole game. Overall, Anne is a great character. She cares deeply about her friends to the point where she will sacrifice her own comfort if necessary. Throughout the game, she teaches herself to fight against her insecurities instead of giving in to them. She started Persona 5 as a sad, lonely girl, and by the end of the game, she's confident and happy. It is so satisfying to see Anne make the friends she's always deserved. It's just a shame that she was frequently used for unnecessary fan service.
Let's settle this, shall we?
This section will feature the topics listed above. If you are not comfortable with these topics, then please skip to the timestamp above. Makoto is the next female character to join the Phantom Thieves. She is the student council president of Shujin Academy and the younger sister of prosecutor Sae Niijima. She is tasked by the principal of Shujin to see if any of the students are Phantom Thieves. Makoto starts following Akira around in the most natural way possible until she overhears Ryuji blurt out that they're Phantom Thieves in broad daylight because he's a silly guy. Instead of immediately reporting them to the principal, Makoto decides to put them to the test. She says that if the Phantom Thieves are able to put a stop to Kanashiro, the mafia boss that forces students from Shujin into debt, then she will keep their identities a secret. When she has dinner with Sae, she brings up the Phantom Thieves, suggesting to her sister that their late father would have approved of them. This sends Sae into a rage. She tells Makoto to grow up and that she eats away at her life. To Sae, Makoto is useless. As someone who is a younger sibling myself, I completely sympathise with Makoto in this situation. All Makoto wants to do is to make her sister proud, but nothing is ever good enough for Sae. Regardless, she still loves Sae, even if it isn't reciprocated. When she checks in with the Phantom Thieves, they all call her useless as they believe that she is making them do all of the hard work for her. Makoto reaches her breaking point. Tired of being considered useless or weak by others, she decides to take things into her own hands. She purposely acts as bait for the mafia, but this only makes the situation worse. Kanashiro takes pictures of the group in his nightclub and threatens them, saying that if they don't give him 3 million yen in 3 weeks, he will leak the photos. To add insult to injury, Kanashiro states that if they do not pay their debt, he will force Makoto into prostitution. The group enters Kanashiro's palace, and Kanashiro's shadow taunts the group and Makoto. Finally, she has had enough. Much like Anne in her awakening, Makoto lets her rage consume her. As soon as her persona, Johanna, calls out to her, she responds immediately, embracing her new power without any hesitation. She summons Johanna, one of the coolest persona designs in the whole series, and finally finds her true self. No longer does she have to hide behind false niceties or be used by others. She can now pave her own path. While I think Anne's awakening is more impactful, this one is still excellent. Seeing a polite, calm girl such as Makoto suddenly switch to a loud, aggressive Persona user is so satisfying. One thing that Persona 5 does so right is its depiction of feminine rage. Rarely do we see women's anger be portrayed in such a well-developed and thought-out way. It's a shame that Makoto's awakening is in the most forgettable palace of the game, but regardless, it left a large impact on both the player and the story going forward. After they have changed Kanashiro's heart, Makoto tells the principal that she has finished her investigation on the Phantom Thieves. She declares that they are just, and that she doesn't know their true identities. When the principal tries to persuade her to continue her investigation by mentioning her letter of recommendation, she declines, saying that she wants to get into the university with her own efforts. This scene neatly ties Makoto's arc during this part of the game. Due to the strength she found from discovering her true self, she doesn't need to rely on adults anymore to achieve success. Now, she can choose her own destiny. Throughout the rest of the game, Makoto is the sensible one of the group and the voice of reason. While she is aware that her sister has a palace, she does not tell the others about this information until Akechi does it for her. While Makoto was most likely aware of Sai's flaws, she couldn't fully accept them until they infiltrated her palace. She is shocked to see how controlling and cruel Sai has become. While the palace isn't entirely focused on Makoto and Sai's relationship, I like how it brought back that plot point from earlier in the game and developed it further. I'll talk more about Sai later in the video, but I always found their relationship to be so tragic, and I hope that their relationship keeps improving. Makoto's confidant focuses on her wanting to learn more about her peers as she wants to help them in a way that doesn't involve studying. She meets Aiko, a student from Shujin, and the two become friends. She then meets Aiko's boyfriend Tsukasa and immediately finds him suspicious. Throughout the confidant, Makoto opens up to Akira about the tragedy of her father's death and how much it affected her. Makoto and Aiko get into an argument about Tsukasa, but it is resolved by the end of the confidant. To be honest, I was never a big fan of this confidant as I found the Aiko plotline quite boring, but I enjoyed seeing Makoto try to broaden her horizons and make friends outside of the Phantom Thieves while processing her trauma. Overall, it was a good confidant, though I wish it focused less on Aiko. Makoto was a great addition to the Phantom Thieves. Her intelligence was necessary for the success of the group, and while she might not be my favourite, I can appreciate what she brought to the table. Also, she does have one of the coolest persona designs ever. The girl's got drip!
Viruses are scary.
This section will feature the topics listed above. If you are not comfortable with these topics, then please skip to the timestamp above. Futaba is the next Phantom Thief to join the team. She is the adopted daughter of Akira's guardian, Sojiro. Futaba discovers the identities of the Phantom Thieves by listening to their conversations through a bug she put in the cafe. Due to Futaba's low self-esteem, she decides that she wants the Phantom Thieves to change her heart, but she almost backs out when she realises they need to know more about her in order to do so. The group goes to Sojiro's house in order to find Futaba, and this is when they realise the truth of her situation. Futaba is a shut-in who hasn't left her house since the death of her mother. The second time the group visits her, they communicate via text. Here, it is confirmed that Futaba is suffering from depression. She feels like a burden, one that doesn't deserve to live. She accidentally inputs the keyword tomb into the nav, which teleports all of them into Futaba's palace. Her palace is an expansive desert that has both a town and a large pyramid. We meet Futaba's shadow, a pharaoh that resides in the pyramid. Her shadow is an embodiment of her own self-hatred which has grown over time. We learn more about her mother's death as we explore her palace and have to put murals back together. Wakaba was a researcher who specialised in cognitive peace science. She was too busy to spend time with Futaba due to her work. Futaba blames herself for her mother's death due to Shido's forced suicide note. Wakaba herself appears in the palace as the final boss, though she is an aggressive sphinx that is determined to make Futaba feel even worse about Wakaba's death. Futaba enters the palace and is confronted by her shadow self. With the help of her shadow, she realises that her mother's death wasn't her fault, and that her palace was just distorted cognition from her own guilt. Realising the truth, Futaba awakens to her persona Necronomicon, which also has a pretty cool design. After Sphinx Wakaba is defeated, Futaba sees her true mother, who assures Futaba that when she was alive, she loved her dearly. After they left the palace, they discover that the Medjed who was threatening the Phantom Thieves was fake, and that Futaba is the real Medjed. And with that, Futaba's palace is finished. Futaba's palace is by far one of my favourites in the entire game. It's such a nice change of pace, and I love how the entire palace was dedicated to Futaba's trauma over the passing of her mum. It reminded me a lot of Persona 4, though instead of fighting Futaba's shadow, she instead helps the real Futaba acknowledge the truth of Wakaba's death. For the rest of the game, Futaba takes baby steps to re-enter society. She decides to join the Phantom Thieves as she wants to discover the truth of her mother's death. When cleaning her room, Sojiro finds the calling card they had sent to her and confronts Akira and Futaba. Sojiro is furious, but eventually calms down and decides not to report them to the police. This scene with the three of them is really nice, as Sojiro ends up opening up about his past. Now that there's no secrets between them, the three of them can be fully comfortable with each other. I am a sucker for the found family trope, and it is done so well in this game, with both this trio and the Phantom Thieves as a whole. I wish the game delved into it a little bit more, but regardless, I think it was done well when it was portrayed. Futaba's skills as a hacker comes back into play when she installs a bug onto Akechi's phone, which helps the group discover that he is in fact working for Shido. The group discovers that Wakaba's death was caused by Shido, the man who was the reason that Akira had a criminal record in the first place. This motivates them to finally take him down for good. Futaba is consistently relevant to the main story, unlike other characters such as Anne, who is only the focus during Kamoshida's palace. While I want to believe that this is because the writers were deeply invested in Futaba's character, this is probably most likely because of her hacking skills, which the writers could use to conveniently advance the plot. Futaba's confidant is focused on her wanting to rejoin society. This includes going to busy shops with Akira and even attempting to go to school. During this time, she remembers that she had a childhood friend called Kana who she had fallen out with due to her discovering that Kana's parents were abusive. After they change her parents' heart to mementos, Kana reconnects with Futaba, and Futaba thanks Akira for helping her get her old life back. This confidant is really sweet, and as the player, it feels like you're really impacting Futaba's life for the better. It works because we are so involved with Futaba herself, rather than just being involved with Aiko's relationship and Makoto's confidant. Futaba is haunted by the adults who forced the guilt of Wakaba's death onto her, and while she is able to overcome this in her palace, she still has to go through a lot of growth throughout the game to recover. Overall, I really enjoyed her character, and she had a large significance in the story. She was a nice change of pace for the game, and I liked how reminiscent her palace was of the dungeons in Persona 4.
Are you not afraid of my axe?
Haru is the daughter of Kunikazu Okumura, the CEO of Okumura Foods, and one of the Phantom Thieves' targets. Haru meets Morgana after he runs away. She goes into her dad's palace with Morgana and awakens to her persona, though it isn't as powerful as the rest of their personas, so it's more like a half awakening. After Morgana teaches her about the metaverse, Haru decides that she wants to change her father's heart so she doesn't have to get married to the stinkiest man ever. When the Phantom Thieves enter Okumura's palace, they are approached by Morgana and Haru, who declare that they will be the first to steal Okumura's heart. Due to Haru's shyness, the encounter doesn't go too well, and both sides are forced to retreat. Akira sees Haru at school, and with the help of Makoto, discovers that she is the persona user that is working with Morgana. Makoto tries to convince Haru to join them, but she rejects their offer as she is completely loyal to Morgana. The group saves Haru from an awkward encounter with her fiancé. After seeing that the Phantom Thieves are trustworthy, she decides to join them in stealing her dad's heart. Because her persona is still very weak, she is only able to accompany them when they re-enter Okumura's palace and not fight herself. This changes when they encounter Shadow Okumura and his cognitive version of her fiancé, Sugimura. Sugimura confesses that he no longer wants to marry Haru, but her dad insists that he can have her as a sexual plaything. In the end, her dad didn't care about his daughter in the slightest, as he was only using the marriage as a stepping stool for his growth in the political world. Distraught at her father's true nature, Haru breaks free from her father's influence, awakening to her full strength. She is ready to put an end to her dad's cruelty. Because Haru's awakening was only a half awakening, it feels more anticlimactic than the other awakenings. However, I still enjoy it for what it is. Seeing a polite and prim girl such as Haru have a persona with its own set of artillery, and Haru herself wielding a large axe is a great contrast. I have more of an issue with the story leading up to this moment, as the focus is primarily on Morgana, even though this is Haru's introduction to the story. In the fandom, it is widely agreed that this is one of the worst parts of the game, and for good reason. While Morgana was never the most likeable character, him hypocritically judging the others and leaving the group made him even more insufferable. He complained that he was considered useless by the rest, even though he was the one who would always pick on Ryuji for the same reasons. I'm going a bit off topic here, but it is really annoying that this arc has such a big focus on Morgana when it should have been entirely focused on Haru. Morgana's storyline could have easily been pushed back to either Sayoshido's palace or just written out completely. Regardless, her awakening was impactful, and I really love her Phantom Thief outfit as it mirrors her personality effectively. As they advance further into Okumura's palace, Haru discovers just how cruel Okumura is towards his employees. Regardless, she believes her father's fake apology when they confront him, but it ends up being a trap. After he is defeated, the group leave, satisfied that their work was complete. However, someone had other plans. When Okumura holds a press conference, he suffers from a mental shutdown on live television. The group watched it go down in Destinyland. Probably one of the worst places to be when your dad dies. Understandably, Haru is distraught by her dad's death and quickly leaves. I can't imagine what she was going through at that moment. She had been assured by everyone that they were helping her dad, but she might have been the reason that he died. I wish the game delved more into Haru's feelings about the situation instead of only bringing it up on occasion. Haru's confidant focuses on her taking more responsibilities in Okumura Foods due to her dad's passing, while also dealing with her creepy fiancé. Inspired by her late grandfather, she decides to make coffee and grow produce from her own garden, which could then be used in the company. Haru is overworked by the new president of Okumura Foods, to the point where she almost collapses, which is really sad. Haru is still a teenager, and yet she's been thrown all of these responsibilities all at once while also having to deal with her father's death. Eventually, she presents her coffee to the new president of the company, who states that the coffee that she made reminds him of the coffee her grandfather used to make. Using all of her strength, she tells him that she no longer trusts him or any other higher-up employees in the company due to her dad's cruelty. Through this discussion with Haru, the new president realizes that Okumura Foods needs to go back to the way it used to be. He invites Haru to the company's next meeting so they can begin to fix what went wrong with the company, and so Haru can trust the higher-ups in Okumura Foods again. The president informs Haru that her engagement with Sugimura isn't official and that she can back out of it any time. Haru does so immediately. Finally, she is free from that disgusting man. On the last rank of her confidant, Haru tells Akira about the meeting and how she found the strength to speak her mind to all the staff present. Thanks to her relationship with Akira, she knows what she wants to do with her life. She dreams of going to uni, and then she wants to open her own chain of cafes. Without anyone's influence, Haru can choose the future she desires. It's a shame that Haru is introduced so late into the story, as she is a really interesting character, but the fact that her starring moment was taken over by Morgana was quite annoying. No other Phantom Thief had their story be interrupted by another character, yet only Haru got that treatment. When she does get screen time, she is a really lovable character, and with the extra semester in Royal, we were able to get some more moments from her. Overall, I think she is a well thought out character, but as she was introduced so late, her character is greatly overshadowed by the climax of the game, and it makes me wish she was introduced much sooner. Royal did this by briefly featuring her near the beginning of the game, but it wasn't anything more than a brief cameo. Justice for Haru and her beautiful forehead.
Time to strike back!
This section will feature the topics listed above. If you are not comfortable with these topics, then please skip to the timestamp above. Sumire is the last Phantom Thief to join the team and was a new addition to Royal. She is the only party member that you start a confidant with before she awakens to her persona, though you can only do the first 5 ranks with the rest being unlocked in January. The first half of her confidant is quite relaxed. You hang out with her doing a variety of activities such as shopping and baseball, and she even teaches you some gymnastics moves. In return, the player's max health increases and you unlock new ways to ambush enemies. As this confidant starts in the main story and the player gets big rewards for hanging out with her, you are highly encouraged to hang out with Sumire, and rightfully so as her story was completely new to Royal. Outside of her confidant, we hang out with her occasionally, such as at the school's cultural festival and on the school trip. We only see her hang out with Akira and no one else from the Phantom Thieves. Sumire is a first-year student at Shujin who has a scholarship due to her skills in gymnastics. However, the school has been pressuring her to perform better as she has been struggling to win competitions. Sumire herself is good at gymnastics, but not the best. This makes her determined to become a better gymnast, though it's clear that the pressure from Shujin is affecting her negatively. We see her at the beginning of the game in Sai's palace. When Akira gets surrounded by shadows, she comes in to save the day. As Futaba describes her presence as a weird reading, we can already deduce that she isn't a part of the Phantom Thieves at this point in the game. She confirms that this is true after the fight, but makes the player curious as to how she will tie into the story. In October, she has a meeting with Maruki and the teacher about her performance as a gymnast. The teacher says that she must win first place so the school can regain its reputation after the Kamoshida scandal. If she doesn't, they will revoke her scholarship. They believe that this will encourage her to do better at competitions, but this is clearly untrue. At a construction site, Sumire accidentally enters Maruki's palace with Morgana and Akira. She sees a version of herself get killed by a shadow. Sumire is in a lot of distress, to the point where she collapses onto the floor. But by now, we know what that means. We're about to see an epic awakening. After hearing some disembodied voices talk about the special treatment she receives at school, and the vice principal saying she isn't good enough, she decides to fight back, for both herself and for Kasumi. One magical girl transformation later, and Sumire has awoken to her persona. Kind of. She has another awakening later, but I'll get to that. When they return to the real world, Morgana tries to convince her to join the Phantom Thieves, but she declines, insisting that she needs to focus on gymnastics. While adding her to the Phantom Thieves would have given Sumire more screen time, I really like this approach and it makes some sense for her character. She has a lot of pressure on her at the moment, so joining the Phantom Thieves would have been too much for her. It wouldn't have been just the school relying on her then, but also everyone in Japan. The last time we see her before the new semester is just before Shido's palace. She wants to help defeat him, but Akira rejects her offer as he believes that Shido is too dangerous for Sumire to handle. I'm assuming the writers made this choice as rewriting Shido's palace just to fit her in would have been too much work, and I don't understand why the protagonist rejected her offer here, especially as they asked her to join a month prior. Now we're at the new semester, which is where Sumire really gets to shine. Up until this point, she has been referred to as Kasumi as she believes that she is her dead sister, and that Sumire was the one who passed away, not Kasumi. But soon, Sumire will remember the truth. Due to her jealousy of her sister's skills, Sumire ran into the road, but before she could get hurt, Kasumi pushed her out of the way. As a result, Kasumi gets into a car accident and passes away. Discovering the truth of her identity, Sumire shuts down. She declares that she wants to keep being Kasumi and she fights Akira and the rest of the Phantom Thieves in order to keep up the illusion. Eventually, Sumire confronts Akira and confesses that she was only avoiding the truth due to her own guilt over her sister's death. She decides that she wants to fight against the illusions of the new world with the others. When they re-enter Maruki's palace, Sumire struggles to summon her persona. She realizes that in order to regain her power, she must accept her true self. After hearing her pleas, her persona returns to her, and we briefly see Kasumi smile at Sumire. Now that Sumire has fully accepted her true identity, she can fight for her and her sister's dreams. After her second awakening, the rest of her confidant is unlocked. I was really surprised by this twist, though in retrospect, it was foreshadowed quite well. I think she fits in with the other Phantom Thieves so much that sometimes she doesn't feel like a new character, and that she was actually always a part of the story. All of them live a lie at some point as a coping mechanism, like how Futaba shuts herself away from the world due to her guilt over her mum's death, or how Yusuke blindly believed in Madarame even though he was fully aware of his trickery. The rest of Sumire's confidant is focused on her re-establishing her identity as Sumire. She no longer wants to hide behind Kasumi's success. She wants to be acknowledged for her own skills. However, her gymnastics coach says that her skills are still lacking. Escaping Kasumi's shadow will be a lot harder than Sumire expected. In the final rank of her confidant, we watch Sumire at practice. Finally, her coach praises her for her efforts. This gave Sumire a lot of well-needed confidence. Now, she is more motivated than ever to achieve her dream. She wants to compete as a gymnast internationally to honour her sister. Instead of completely rejecting the memory of Kasumi, Sumire embraces it in her new life. This wraps up her character development perfectly. Sumire starts as a polite and likeable character, but as we get into the final semester, we realise how tragic she really is. Sumire loved her sister, but couldn't help but feel inferior to her, which unintentionally got her sister killed. I'm sure we've all felt like Sumire at some point in our lives, whether that be with a sibling or a friend. I love how the writers explored this idea and addressed how toxic this mentality is. for both yourself and those around you. Overall, I think her character was incorporated into the story really well, and I love how she took much longer than the other characters to confront her trauma, as she is the only character to have her persona get taken away from her after she had an awakening. Unlike other new characters, Marie, her character was a great addition to the story. Who doesn't love a girl who slays on the dance floor?
You'll never see it coming. Yee-hoo!
So I've decided to discuss the female confidants in one section, as they have far less content compared to the girls I've discussed up to this point. Let's start with Sai. Sai interrogates Akira throughout the game, and the ranks of her confidant get unlocked as the player progresses. She is determined to discover the identities of the Phantom Thieves and bring them to justice. As the Phantom Thieves get more popular, Sai becomes increasingly frustrated, especially as it puts the police force in a bad light. We only see how corrupt Sai has become when she is offered a promotion by the SIU director. She stops responding to Makoto and throws herself into her work because she had to mature at such a young age. Sai is now completely absorbed by the idea of being successful. Her palace is by far my favourite in the entire game. A large casino with multiple floors that you can only access by rigging the games. And her shadow design is amazing. I mean, just look at her. Her palace is the embodiment of her mentality as a prosecutor. She must do whatever she can to win. When her shadow is defeated, Makoto desperately tries to make Sai see the errors of her ways. With the cruel side of herself defeated, Sai admits that she was wrong. From now on, she is an ally of the Phantom Thieves and not an enemy. She apologizes to her sister and promises to be a better sister. While Sai certainly has a long way to go, she is taking a step in the right direction. After the Phantom Thieves broadcast the calling card to Shido, the police approach Sai as she was the last one seen with Akira. Sticking to her word, Sai doesn't reveal any information about the Phantom Thieves, showing that she really has changed for the better. By the end of the game, Sai has quit her job and is now a defense lawyer. In the epilogue of Royal, we see Sai look for accommodations with Makoto for when the latter goes to university. While it looks like the two are fighting, they end up laughing together, showing that they are more comfortable with each other than they were before. Sai is a very flawed character, though it's clear that she wasn't always like that. Entering adulthood with no parents and a younger sister to take care of along with her heavy workload broke her. Though thanks to Makoto and the rest of the Phantom Thieves, she was able to find herself again. She certainly has a long way to go to fix her relationship with Makoto, but from what we saw in the epilogue, I'm sure that she'll be just fine. Next is Caroline and Justine, the two Velvet Room attendants of the game. Caroline is rude and impatient, while Justine is calm and stern. When formed, they create Labenta, the true identity of the twins. You advance their confidant by fulfilling their requests. As you do so, the girls seem to respect you more. They are quick to realise that neither of them wrote the lists of requests, hinting towards the existence of Labenta. Justine starts to question her role, which Caroline discourages, saying that they should just follow Igor's orders. While their confidant isn't that interesting, as it basically consists of them complimenting Akira on his progress while they struggle with their identity, it cleverly provides hints to the player that there is more to the twins than initially expected. The hangouts with them are goofy, just as they should be. I'll never get tired of seeing the Velvet Room attendants try to adjust to the normal world. My favourite hangout is when Akira takes him to LeBlanc and they immediately roast Sojiro, undoubtedly making him question all of his life choices up until that point. While they aren't my favourite Velvet Room attendants, as I will be an Elizabeth stan until the day I die, I think that they mirror the themes of the game perfectly. The next confidant I want to discuss is Hifumi, a shogi prodigy. She is famous in the shogi world due to her skills and appearance. During her confidant, we learn that she wants to be a professional shogi player just like her father, although she learns that she is undefeated because her mother has rigged all of her games in her favour. She advertises her daughter as a shogi idol, because she wants to vicariously live through her daughter. After the Phantom Thieves change her mum's heart, her mum stops messing with Hifumi's games, resulting in Hifumi losing for the first time. Surprisingly, Hifumi is happy to be defeated, as she can now play genuinely instead of hiding behind her mother's lies. Hifumi is a fan favourite due to the useful skills you get from her confidant and her interesting design. While it's a shame that she doesn't appear in the main story, I appreciate her confidant, even if it is quite simple compared to the others. One thing I will say before I discuss the rest of the female confidants is that I hate how you can date adult characters even though the playable character is a teenager. While some may choose to date the adult characters as they are an adult themselves, I still think it's weird that the game offers these romances in the first place, as while the protagonist is a self-insert, that is only to a certain extent, as he has a canon age, personality, and even multiple canon names. While these romance options make me really uncomfortable, I will still be discussing the characters as they are really interesting, and thankfully the romances in the Persona games are optional. With that in mind, let's continue. Kawakami is a teacher at Shujin, but they find out that she works as a maid outside of school. She sends money to a deceased student's relatives as they pin the blame on her for his death, even though she did nothing wrong. Initially, Kawakami lies to Akira and says that she uses the extra money to help support her ill sister, though as her confidant progresses, she tells Akira the truth. Before she worked at Shujin, Kawakami was tasked with telling one of her students to transfer to a different school, as he always skived and had bad grades. She finds out that the student had to work multiple part-time jobs to support himself as his parents passed away. Kawakami took pity on him and decided to tutor him so that he could get better grades. The principal of the school disapproved of this and told her to either stop the tutoring or to resign. Kawakami decides to stop tutoring the student, though soon after, he dies in a car crash due to exhaustion from juggling all of his part-time jobs with his studies. The relatives who didn't do anything to help the student blamed Kawakami, and so Kawakami feels she owes them money because of her own guilt. This whole situation explains why Kawakami acts the way that she does. She has completely lost her passion for teaching, though it's clear she still cares for her students. Unfortunately, she became the type of adult she never wanted to be. As soon as she meets Akira, she judges him for his criminal record without taking time to get to know him. This misunderstanding is cleared up later in the game, but it's interesting that she made the exact same mistake as the principal at the other school. The students' relatives keep on raising the amount they want from Kawakami. It gets too much for her, and she is hospitalized due to exhaustion. The relatives have the gall to visit her at hospital just to guilt trip her into paying them quicker. After they are defeated in Mementos, Kawakami quits all of her part-time jobs so she can focus on teaching. Kawakami's confidant has arguably the most useful skills out of all of them, and I think the story of the confidant is just as good. I really like Kawakami, so seeing her rediscover her passion for teaching was really nice. Takemi is a private doctor that Akira visits so he can be a guinea pig for her new medicines. In return, Takemi sells him healing items, so she's very useful to the player. Takemi used to work at a university, but she was fired after her patient took one of her medicines and got even more sick. When she realizes that one of her patients was mistreated by the university, she treats her instead. She starts to get better, but someone from the university announces to Takemi that she has passed away. Takemi is devastated with this, but thankfully the Phantom Thieves change his heart. It is revealed that the university doctor was jealous of Takemi's skills, so he did everything he could to ruin her reputation. He also reveals that the girl is alive and was just transferred to another hospital. He ends up resigning, and Takemi is offered a job at a hospital. She accepts the offer. Her efforts as a doctor won't be undermined anymore. I think Takemi is a really cool character, and her design shows that really well. Oya is a journalist that is determined to write the perfect story, and she is willing to twist the truth to do so. She used to write genuine articles, but one of her articles about Shido was censored. She was transferred to the entertainment department soon after. We see her occasionally outside of her confidant, though all she does is try and get information on the Phantom Thieves. We found out that Oya's partner was accused of murder. Just as she gets close to finding the truth of the case, her boss prevents her from doing so. After the Phantom Thieves change the boss's heart, Oya sees her partner again, but is shocked to discover that he is suffering from a mental shutdown. Oya's confidant is bittersweet, much like her. I was never a big fan of her confidant, and after doing research on this video, I realised that I assumed a lot of negative things about her character which wasn't true, so when I inevitably replay Royal, I'll give her confidant more of a chance. The last female confidant is Chihaya, a fortune teller who seems to have genuine skills, but always tried to scam you with expensive items. Originally she lived in a village, but was outcast due to her being able to predict when disasters were about to happen. She came to Tokyo and was immediately picked up by an ADP supervisor, who makes her sell expensive things to her clients. She predicts that one of her clients has an abusive relationship, which will get worse over time, but this is stopped by the Phantom Thieves changing their heart. Chihaya realizes that Akira has somehow helped her client, and she decides to take him under her wing. The ADP supervisor finds out about this and threatens her to do her job, like she used to, as their customers are leaving after their issues are solved. This doesn't stop Chihaya, and she discovers that the seminars that the supervisor holds scam people out of their money. The Phantom Thieves change his heart, and Chihaya is able to help her customers without his threats anymore. While the skills you acquire from her confidant are useful, I always found her to be kind of boring. Yes, she's sweet and she cares for her customers, but that's about it really. I'll still do her confidant anyway, as I need the extra help of speeding up the confidant ranks, as I always seem to say the wrong thing. And with all of that said, I have covered all of the relevant female characters of Persona 5. The fact that this script is over double the length of my Women in Kingdom Hearts script just shows how well thought out and excellent the female characters are. Throughout the game, they all find their inner strength to fight back against their oppressors, and seeing them finally be able to free themselves from these toxic people is very satisfying. The only thing that is a detriment to their characters is the fan service they are forced into, as it's always really uncomfortable to watch and is so inconsistent with the rest of their portrayals. They put so much care into refining their female characters, but then sexualize them because they can? While I am the biggest fanservice hater, it's infrequent enough that I can still enjoy the characters. They had to go through so much, and through their inner strength and support from their peers, they were able to get the happy endings that they all deserved. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please let me know what you thought about the video in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, as if you don't, I'll just have to steal your heart. Hope to see you all again in the future, but for now, bye bye! Where have you been searching all along, confessing twilight on and on, without a clue, without a sign, without grasping at the real question to be asked. Where have I been?